Hey, 2717. Today is a huge episode. We're talking about the destructiveness of pornography. Stay tuned.
Hey, Mr. Merrick.
Talyn?
Hey, we're 2 for 2, man.
Two
together.
for two, baby.
Yeah.
Well, when I had some family stuff going on, you and Wade kind of picked up the slack. So now Wade's, he's sailing and doing all the cool things he's doing. So we're going to pick up the slack.
Yeah, there's no telling where he's at right now. He could be in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
Yeah, we're happy
Wade,
for you, buddy.
If you've got signal out there, wherever you're at, we love you.
That's right, man. Have a whatever you're having. Have a pina colada on us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Think of us.
There you go.
Well, Mr. Merritt, I'm super excited about the topic for today. Just to kind of bust this thing wide open and get it going right off the rip. We're talking about the destructiveness of pornography.
Yep.
And I wanted to preface before we get into any of this, this is something extremely close to my heart. Something that I've walked through since I was 11 years old.
Okay.
And I've witnessed the incredible freedom that comes through. Some really practical things that we can touch on at the end of how we've gotten freedom. But one of the number one things that has helped me completely turn my back on this and do a 180 and that full repentance, repenting is turning away from.
Oh, yeah.
Right? One thing that has helped me the most is understanding and making an enemy of this entire industry.
Okay.
This thing that was used so often for me to numb and to cope with.
Sure.
And, it's like it's the hurt pocket. You kind of pull it out. You kind of like pet it a little bit. Whenever you start to peel back some of these things and look at the statistics and like what is happening in this industry, you start looking at that little hurt pet, whatever thing, that addictive behavior. And you're like, oh, this is actually really gross. Mm-hmm. This isn't helping me at all. So anyways, yeah. You want to just jump right in?
Yeah. I'm super curious where we're going to go here and looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Well, I think some of the best things that we can do to start out is to just kind of preface an understanding of what we're dealing with here, right? So I've got some statistics here from 2023, right? So it's 2025 now, so it's very likely that some of these statistics have actually increased over the last 2 years. But the Journal of Sex Research back in 2023 found that 73% of men and 47% of women report viewing pornography within the last month.
Wow.
Yeah. So if we combine both those statistics, you're looking at least 50 to 60% of the entire population is regularly looking at this kind of content.
Okay.
Right. So any church, any Walmart, and that's really shaped the way I walk into some of these public spaces. It's like, oh, a lot of us are dealing with this.
Yeah, that's right.
If we were just rounded up to just half, or round down to just half, 50%.
It's a big number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And then, there's always been this kind of stigma that it's just a man's issue. This is just something that only the men are dealing with. Whenever you look at the stats, I mean, that's 50% of women right there who report it. And that's not even to say, like maybe some people on both sides may have been too ashamed to click yes or no on that survey. And so it could even be greater than that. As a matter of fact, in 2024, there was a study by Barna that revealed that 1 in 3 women under the age of 30 view porn at least once a month. And 15% of those admit to daily or near daily use of pornography.
My goodness.
Yeah. So, I mean, now, just to kind of get our scope set here, this is not just a man's issue. This is a full-on cultural epidemic, right? And the numbers just continue to rise. If you look at data from like 2013, even in the early 2000s, it was roughly about 40 to 50% of men saying that they watch video pornography. Internet pornography, and almost no women, right? But now the stats just keep rising year over year, and now it's like the statistics of women are growing year over year to where eventually I think we're going to see a match.
So are you saying that historically it was more of a male centered thing.
Absolutely.
But in more recent years, it's becoming kind of almost more balanced between male and female.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that is?
I think that there's a few different reasons. So a lot of reasons why women get into pornography. So we're talking just actresses here, right? It's coercion, it's financial stability, it's they're emotionally abused, and so they understand that, hey, I can find security in this act and in this performance, right? So we're talking just actresses there in the traditional, quote unquote, I hate saying that, form of video pornography.
Yep.
Well, as of late, OnlyFans has come onto the scene within the past 5 years.
Yep.
And now
That's a huge deal.
it's a huge deal. And so now you've got a whole swath of people who, as soon as they turn 18, this is one of the first things that they do, because they know that that's a niche that I fall into and I can make money quickly doing this type of content. Once you get those hooks set in at an early age, 18, your frontal lobe isn't developed.
Oh, yeah.
You are so young at that point.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden you're just completely bought into that culture. And then the shame cycle, and then you just go down, 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 and now it becomes a vice for you to cope with. All of your financial, emotional security, your self-worth is all wrapped up in it. And so I think that has been one of the reasons why it's started to.
I completely can see where it's true. Because when I was young, it seemed like, at least from what I can remember, there were limited places for exposure to that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there was the magazines, and
Right.
I think back then there was a Playboy and Hustler that I remember being around. But then there were the strip bars.
Yep.
But you had to be of age,
Right.
So if you're 18, that couldn't get in there. And so I just don't think there was as much like what you're saying now. I guess I don't know the rules, but on an OnlyFans thing, if you're 18, then you're legal to actually get on there
To become a creator.
to be a creator. And so
Yeah.
if you're an 18-year-old confused young lady that sees it as an opportunity, then it's like, well, I mean, maybe in some ways, if you're unchurched, you can seem relatively innocent.
Yeah.
You're making some money, and then you're sucked into this whole pornography thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then so if you think, those 4 years that you spend in high school, you're around young men who are undoubtedly watching this kind of content.
Oh, yeah.
Whether even if maybe it's not even just like full blown pornography, right? Maybe it's just the objectification of women on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or on Snapchat or these other social platforms that, it's not porn per se, but skimpy bikinis, all these
Yep.
different outfits, and all these women see like, oh, well, that's how those other people get validation. That's how they make their money. They have that security, and it fully wraps into this, because really at the root of all this, it's all pride. It's all pride centered. I'm going to do what I will. Right.
Okay.
And the lusts of the flesh are they're not just in the realm of sexual lusts. The lusts of the flesh are essentially broken down to, if I can, then I will.
Yeah.
Right? That's essentially what lust is. If I can think about that woman without her clothes on, I will.
Sure.
If I can objectify this woman with my gaze, then I will. Right? So essentially, whenever you break that down, it's, well, I get to call the shots, and now I have security. And then you throw in the feminist movement into all of this, to where it's like, I don't need a man. I'm
Right.
going to completely buck against the traditional norms, all this type of stuff. I think that it starts at around, statistically, most young men are reporting that they see their first pornographic content, their first exposure to adult content is between the ages of 10 and 12.
Wow.
And so then you're shamed. You don't know what to do with this content that you just saw. Your body's going through puberty. Then you get into high school. All your friends are going through the same thing, and then it just spirals out of control from there. Right? So I don't say all this to scare any parents that may be listening to this or watching, but just to show. Also, another staggering statistic that I found: most young boys, especially, are first seeing their first encounter with pornography is actually at school.
Oh, really? Okay.
In passing periods, hey, I saw this, look at this. Young boys doing what young boys do, there's a sense of camaraderie and the shock factor of, oh my gosh, did you see that? There's a growing statistic. I can't remember exactly what it is, I'll get the numbers and the receipts, but it's all happening within the community of people.
Yep.
So that's why we were saying it's a cultural epidemic. It's not just closed to, it's just guys between this age. It's full blown cultural epidemic.
Where I begin to think it as an adult, if I see the world as like what you said, if I see it, I can experience it, or you said, like, in other words, like, my body's my own, or if I want, if I want to imagine this woman, or whatever.
Yeah. If I can, then I will. Yeah.
It's a very selfish, self-centered, self-seeking kind of way of looking at life. I would say, as Christians, because I know there's Christians they're going to be watching this that probably struggle with pornography.
Yeah.
One of the paradigms I would suggest for us to think on is that as a Christian, I want to influence people toward Christ.
Yeah.
I want to draw them closer to the Lord, and that type of attitude, it permeates, right? It's
right.
there's scripture that says that He gives seed to the sower, right?
Yeah.
So who is a sower? Well, it's people that are promoting and teaching and living out the things of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to be self-critical, but as a way, maybe as a motivating factor, because I believe, Talyn, that we will all do more for others than what we'll do for ourselves.
Absolutely.
In other words, if I'm saying, well, I don't need to do this because it's not, it's not the kind of person I want to be. Well, that's a motivating factor. But if you now have a daughter in your household who's 13 years old going through puberty,
mm-hmm.
and it was, whatever time frame you maybe were looking at young women on some kind of website or something,
right?
Then all of a sudden you're going, I don't want to be that, and I don't want to influence. I want to be just the opposite. I want to, and so, we are called to draw people closer to the Lord. We are called to influence people toward godly behavior and godly character, and that at least is a motivating factor for me. Yeah. Because, look, at 58 years old, I have a 36-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think in terms of, my oldest granddaughter's 7,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, so if you think in terms of if there's men that are watching this, and let's say they're 28, right, and maybe they have a baby. Well, it's difficult, or it's maybe hard to kind of grasp this, but that little baby girl, she'll be 16 years old.
Yeah.
And she will have 16-year-old young ladies. These are they've already blossomed. They're young. They're young women.
Right.
They have there's some beauty that God's given to them.
Yeah.
As a godly man, I believe, you be a protector.
That's right.
You be a caretaker.
Yeah.
You be somebody that is guarding them, not somebody that because of maybe some things that are going on in the dark that could be allowing a demonic spirit or demonic things into that life that somehow could impact those children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a godly responsibility, and hopefully that may be a motivating factor that could help some people that are watching this episode. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree. That's one of the biggest concerns right now with this entire industry for the people who are against the industrial complex of pornography.
Yeah.
It is the protection of minors.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of put it into perspective of, we're talking percentages, half of the people out there. Another staggering statistic that we found was that globally, the top 4 pornography sites, just the top 4, receive over 4.5 billion visits per month. So that's more than X or Twitter, Netflix, and Pinterest all combined. That's as of last year. That's in 2024. And again, if the stats are correct, we're seeing a gradual increase across the board with all these stats. So this is, whenever you're talking about a pornography addiction, there's an important distinction that you need to make here. Pornography addiction is classified by the DSM-5 as an intimacy disorder, right? To know and be known by others, right? So what we're witnessing here is we're witnessing a human intimacy crisis, right? So people are so shamed and isolated that we're seeing a staggering decline in the ability for people to be known and know others, right? So this is where isolation, depression, all of the mental health crises occur here, right? And one of the biggest caveats to that mental health crisis is pornography. And I think that's shown statistically.
I worry, Talyn, that, if, and I believe everything you're saying. So 10 or 12 years old, young man, young woman is exposed, whatever. And then they get the idea, they get trained, so to speak, educated in that this is normal, or this is, and then they enter into dating or courtship or maybe even marriage, and these things have been in the dark or whatever, and then they come into a marriage and intimacy thinking that these type of things are normal,
right?
And then bless their heart, their spouse is like, hey, what's going on here?
What the heck? Yeah.
This, I'm not okay with all this, right? And and then in some homes, which I was more modest with our children than my wife, and thank God for my wife, because we had a round table that we had family dinner at every night.
Yeah.
And it was so important that in my prior career in the car business, I worked horrendous hours, but it became so important that I would leave the dealership that I managed, come home and have dinner at a set time, and then in many cases go back to work.
Wow.
But having that family time, all of us around the table, all the cell phones got put up.
Yeah.
And we played high-low. What was the best thing that happened? What was the worst thing? We just got us talking.
Yeah.
But Pam would bring up sexual stuff, and we would talk about it. And but I know in a lot of families, I don't think, Talyn, that these aren't bad families. They're just like, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm embarrassed by all this, and so so their education, where I'm trying to go with this, and then you can educate me on this.
Yeah.
The poor kid's education is on his cell phone looking at some porn site or talking to his buddies in the bathroom about whatever nonsense that they're, oh, let me tell you how it is, buddy, and,
right.
And there's no real place. I mean, it's like, honestly, even our churches, I mean, how often hey, don't have sex till you're married. I mean, there's some do's and don'ts, but in terms of, really dealing with some of these issues.
Yeah.
And I'm thank you for bringing it up, because it's almost like, well, I know it's out there, but, let's not talk about it.
This is awkward. This is icky. This is taboo. Yeah. So there's two different topics that I think that need to be addressed in what you said. Number one is like the courtship aspect, right? So with the rise in AI, right? So there are now apps out there that where the user can create an AI companion, right? So you create this image of a person.
Yeah.
And you have full control. What they look like, how they talk, some of the things they say to you. It's all prompt based.
That's scary, because I see where you're going with this. Wow.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
So these AI companions are often used for those sexual kind of gratification, sending images, even going as far as sending videos and voice calling.
Oh,
so you can
Lord.
voice chat with these things now.
Oh my gosh.
So it's a full-fledged sexual integration with AI.
Wow.
Okay. The thing that's happening with this that psychologists are already extremely concerned about is the massive de-skilling issue that's happening with men. Okay, so if we go through the basic pattern of what happens here. Someone gets an AI companion, they develop, these sexual encounters with this person, or it's not even a person, it's a robot essentially, with this algorithm, and this algorithm learns you, right? And it's there at your beck and call, does everything that you want, sends you pictures of exactly what you want, when you want it, videos, it'll call you and tell you what you want it to hear. So it's de-skilling these men whenever it comes to actual courtship with women. Okay. So now there's a huge issue where these young men no longer know how to address a real woman, right? Because there is absolutely zero risk with AI.
Sure.
So now that you throw risk into the equation of dealing with another cognitive human being, they don't know how to do it. They crumble. There's this shyness, this awkwardness, this self-protection, this, I'm just running over here to this app that's getting all of my needs. And I don't even want to take the risk anymore to go out with this. And it's a huge issue because then
how prevalent is this? I mean, is this a small thing right now, or is this?
No. Some of the big AI apps right now, have users up into the, 500,000 users.
Okay.
And they're gaining traction fast.
Wow.
And the awful thing about this entire industry is it's all based on profit, right? So just like any other industry, you're going to run ads. You're going to run all these different campaigns with these, seductive imagery and all these different things. So you've got young guys on social media who are frankly going through the hard times of trying to date in high school. That's already awkward as it is, right? And then you target these young users to now see these provocative images of women, and you start thinking, well, I can just, why even try? It's as hard out here as it is. Let me just go get my rocks off to this algorithm right now.
Yeah.
So if you follow that line of thinking, worst case scenario, I mean, you're going to have full-blown population issues. You're going to have full-blown reproductive organ issues with all of this happening. And again, the intimacy crisis of being unable and being de-skilled to the fact that you don't know how to know others.
Yeah.
And you don't know what it feels like to be known.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a huge issue that no one is talking about because, like you said, it's taboo, it's icky, it's weird.
Yeah.
Right. And quite frankly, most of the parents don't know that this is going on. Right.
Wow.
Because we're no longer in high school. We've been out of high school X amount of years. If you got a 16-year-old son, it's likely you've been out of high school for at least 16 years.
Right.
And it's a completely different animal now than it was then. Even me, I've been out of high school for 12 years. And even now I'm like, y'all are different.
Yeah.
It's a totally different landscape. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
The de-skilling that's happening with courtship. The second thing is the talking about it. One of the best things that you can do is whenever you have that honest community. So what you were saying about having that designated time, we are going to sit. There are no screens.
Right.
And we are going to have these moments to know and be known. Right. Anytime that you can foster that type of communication, it's always a net positive.
Sure.
Because your children, your family, your parents, whoever it is, you are building relational equity with that individual.
That's right.
To where eventually you can say, hey, this is going on, or you can ask, is this going on?
Yep.
So I think that is the number one tool in your tool belt that you need to have is that honest community.
Yep. Yeah. What makes me think about this too is I remember when we were growing up, I think Wade and I've talked about this. We share this, that a lot of our children's friends, they would come to our home and they would experience what was normal to us, but was very unusual to them. The closeness, the prayer before we eat, the conversation we would have around the dinner table, the family time around the swimming pool and all that, and they would cling to us for some of that, because they weren't getting it from home.
Right.
And so, as we're talking and we're unpacking some of this, there's probably a pretty good chance that people were raised in homes. And look, I want to honor my father. He was, he taught me so many things, and it was a great father.
Yeah.
In this one area, when it came to, there was an odd, who has Playboy sitting around that is free game to a child?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
There was just a weird thing there, and so I was desensitized
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Understanding that women are to be valued and protected. Well, some of the people that would come to our house that cling to us, and I still am in contact. One of the young men now is a deputy sheriff with Potter County, and we talk, communicate several times a year.
Yeah.
The way I got to know him is in a group of his friends. I was a summer basketball coach. It was one of these, whatever you call it. Anyway, we paid. We were really good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my son was a good basketball player, so I coached him. Well, this particular group of kids that I'm talking about, they grew up in a very rough environment. They were a group of African American kids. We'd go to these tournaments on the weekend. The only way they get to go is I'd go pick them up. I was happy to do it.
Yeah.
I knew that they weren't going to have any lunch money or any food with them, and so I gladly would feed them. And they got to be where, like, I would drop them off at their house and be like a Friday night at 8:30 or 9 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around going, this isn't a safe environment for a
Right.
child.
Right.
You know, and I'd ask them, hey, you guys good? Oh, yeah, coach, we're good. And I was like, no, I'm not good.
Yeah.
You guys may be good. I'm not good. You're coming home with me.
Yeah.
Right. And, but again, talking about understanding and protecting, there was a sense of respect and understanding, because I told them all, I said, hey, y'all are welcome in my home. Mm-hmm. Don't mess with my girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm their guardian.
Yeah.
And I think it was a healthy way. It didn't have to do anything like that. They were not, like they weren't, I'm trying to say this. I respected them as men.
Yeah.
And if they had come to me and said, hey, would it be okay if your daughter and I went and had coffee? I would have been cool.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't that.
Right.
It was just, don't come in here and hustle my girls. Right.
Right.
I am the protector of this home.
Right.
These are my girls.
Yeah. There was a hierarchy of people that you needed to protect.
Right.
And quite frankly, they were beneath your girls.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the point of that is, I don't know how, I think a lot of people grew up, and I think you grew up in a Christian home, and you were, not perfect. Nobody's home's perfect.
Right.
But I think a lot of people just grew up in environments like these young men I'm talking about, the environment I grew up in, where there's just like this idea of we need to honor and protect our women. Like looking and doing at these things and allowing the spirit of this into our home is not something that we should. I just don't know. I think that that's a foreign concept, Talyn.
Yeah.
And I think that as the enemy does, he puts his hooks in you. Mm-hmm. And if you're 10 or 12 years old, unchurched, unsaved, and all of a sudden you get the hooks of that crap in your life,
Yeah.
man, you can go through even being in a Christian home, the enemy can put those hooks in you.
Oh yeah.
And you're in trouble.
You're in trouble, big time.
Yeah.
Big
And
time.
it can destroy your entire life. So, man, what you're doing here and what you're teaching is so important. And I wish I knew more about it, but I am so happy that you're teaching this and exposing me and our audience to, because this AI thing, I'm
It's a big
completely
deal.
oblivious to it.
It's a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what's happening to the brain whenever this happens
Okay,
too.
cool.
Okay. So just to kind of, again, peek into the enemy's camp to see what it is that they're doing.
Yeah,
we got
sure.
UAVs. This is a UAV kind of drone look into what the enemy's doing here. Whenever you are regularly exposing yourself to pornography, you are hijacking your dopamine system in your brain. Okay.
Makes
so
sense.
all of the motivation, right?
The
Dopamine.
pleasure center.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So serotonin is the ultimate pleasure release,
Okay.
right? Dopamine is the, hey, we want the serotonin, let's go get it, right?
Okay.
So dopamine actually acts more as a motivator.
Okay.
So whenever you are faced with a stressful situation and you have trained yourself to get that release from pornography, viewing pornography, your brain then says, hey, all of the stressful stuff, it's bad. We got to run from it. We have to go get porn every time we're stressed, right?
Gotcha.
So now you are training your brain to be actually challenge adverse, okay? You don't want challenges. You don't want discomfort. You don't want to be caught out of your strengths. You don't want to be caught off guard. All of these things your brain starts to view as red flags and indicators that you now need to go watch pornography,
Okay.
right? So your entire dopamine system is hijacked. Also, whenever you are watching pornography, it is now considered by multiple psychologists, and I want to say even by, it's even like classified now for psychologists as a supernatural stimuli, right? So it's no longer just stimulation like pixels, a video game or a cartoon or any of those things that are, hyper stimulating.
Sure.
Right. This is now a supernatural stimulation because of how much of your brain actually lights up in an MRI scan
Wow.
whenever you view pornography.
So it almost sounds like crack cocaine or methamphetamine
Right.
or.
Fun fact about this, they were comparing and contrasting in an A/B test, a brain on heroin
Okay.
and a brain on pornography. And there was the same brain activity between the two of them,
Wow, that's crazy.
which indicates that getting off of pornography is just as hard as quitting heroin.
Wow.
So it is a serious issue right here. You are willfully subjecting yourself to the same type of brain activity as heroin whenever you are indulging in pornography on a regular basis.
Wow.
So coming off of this, you're now taking this hyperactive dopamine system in your brain and you're saying, hey, you are being run at 100 miles an hour. You're going to blow the engine.
Sure.
We've got to throttle it down now.
Sure.
Whenever you do that, you start getting anxious. You start getting fatigued. You have brain fog. You actually have detox symptoms.
Wow.
So me in particular, I've struggled with this since I was 11 years old, right? I noticed I was very anxious. I had shakes. I was constantly checking my phone. This was not healthy. I went to social media. Social media was like my next fix. It's like, okay, it's not porn, but I'm just going to scroll.
Sure.
You develop these habits and these patterns. And after a little while, I was like, oh my, I've picked up my phone
Yeah.
to see nothing 100 times today.
Yeah.
That's how far gone my brain was of thinking, I've got to have my fix. I got to have.
Yeah, were you picking it up, hoping that there'd be some image on there, or you just
No, I just needed stimulation.
just stimulation? Okay,
I
with
just
you.
needed.
Okay,
I needed it was this habit.
okay,
And I wonder, maybe this could be something for the comments, if other people have dealt with that.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening with the brain, right? There's also, like we touched on, the de-skilling issue. Okay. So your dopamine center is hijacked. You're de-skilled and you don't know how to relate with others. The center of it all is shame,
okay,
right? I'm going through this. This is weird. My parents, I don't think they'd understand. I'd feel exposed or vulnerable if I took this to someone else just because of the sexual nature that this thing lives in. That is the number one hook and vice that I believe the enemy uses to keep us isolated, right? So Paul writes, do not forsake the gathering.
that's right.
Do not forsake the gathering. It's an explicit command from Paul. So whenever the enemy works to isolate us, he is getting us out of the gathering.
Okay.
Because he can take us out there. On that last episode that we just did, you said that, you were serving at the church. If you would have just vanished and stopped showing
Right.
up, those people would have come looking
That's
after
exactly
you.
right. Yep.
If the enemy can isolate you before you get into that community, who's going to come looking for you?
So one of the ploys of the enemy through pornography is to isolate you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And pornography is a never-ending rabbit hole.
Yep.
There's always a new niche. There's always a new category. There's a new.
Is it progressive? Because the more I'm hearing
Absolutely.
you sound like this, it sounds like a drug addiction or a
Absolutely.
that it because the classic deal. Well, let's make the same. At 12 years old, my buddy introduced me to pot, and then at 15, I was, and then by the time I'm whatever, I'm 22 now, I'm on heroin or whatever
Right.
whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. So you get this initial trench dug into your brain of this supernatural stimuli that you're being exposed to. Just like any other drug, you're chasing that first high. So the second time you come around, you get a hit, but it's not as much. The 100th, the 1,000th time, the 10,000th time that you come around, at that point, you're just going down the same pathway, and it has lost its effect completely.
Okay.
So that's why people start getting into all of these different categories and go further and further. Fun fact, people who had been exposed to pornography for more than 2 years were more likely to start watching trans porn. So it goes, I've explored all these things. I've never explored this thing.
Okay.
So now there is a huge rise in trans pornography throughout all of these sites.
Okay.
Terrible deal. I think you and I can both agree. Transitioning is one of the worst mistakes that you could possibly make.
Sure.
And that's not even just an opinion that's scientifically backed.
Yeah.
That's backed by many accounts of people who say, I regret doing this.
Suicide rates are off the charts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is we're seeing the enemy's hand in all of this. I want to isolate you so I can destroy you.
Right.
That's ultimately what's happening here. So let's talk now about the practical ways. What are some things that we can do, right?
Okay.
So if you are in the midst of an addiction, the number one thing that you can do, it is by far the hardest part, and I won't diminish that because I've had to do it. It is the initial confession. Going and saying, I have a problem and I need help. That is by far the hardest part because you are willfully exposing this secret life that you have been building. You have been exploring your own sexual needs and desires alone.
Sure.
Without anybody.
Sure.
And so anytime that you think I need to go tell somebody, because I can tell you firsthand, for years, I'm like, man, I wish I could talk to somebody about this. But I just can't. The enemy would be, no, you can't. You'll be rejected.
Right.
You'll be ostracized.
Sure.
You'll be, publicly humiliated.
Yeah.
All these things, which haven't happened, right?
Yeah.
All the people that I love who I've confessed to, they've been like, man, I love you. Let's get some help, man. Here's some resources.
Right.
I'm going to advocate. I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sucks. This is sin. You don't need to be messing with it, but I'm not going to rub your nose in it.
Sure.
Okay. So confess. A caveat to that is I would be in prayer. If there's someone that the Lord has highlighted to confess to,
Okay.
confess to that person.
Okay.
Don't cast your pearls before swine. type
I'm
of
with
deal.
you,
yeah. The second thing is, whenever you start this exposure process, there is a resetting of your brain that needs to happen. Okay, you're going to be taking back your dopamine, the reward center, the entire system of your brain.
I would assume that takes some time.
It takes, on average, 6 months
Okay.
for it to come back down to normal levels. But you need to find an accountability partner.
There you
Okay,
go.
and the reason being, accountability partners often get kind of like a bad rap because it's like, oh, I watched porn today. Oh, I did too. Oh, this sucks, doesn't it? That's not accountability, right? Accountability is confessing sins to one another so that you may be healed.
That's right.
Right? That's what the Bible tells us in James 5:16.
That's exact. Right.
It is not just a commiserating, right? I would suggest your accountability partner needs to be someone older than you and someone who is not struggling with this.
Amen.
Preferably someone who has gotten freedom.
Yep.
Okay? So those would be three criteria. You need at least two of the three.
Okay.
Okay? In that person is now going to be more equipped to handle the information that they're giving you, and you're going to be able to, that you are giving them, and they are going to be able to speak truth into this.
I agree with that.
Okay. The third thing is we need to de-shame it completely.
Okay.
Okay. If there are healthy levels of cultural shame, right? And I think that there's a difference between healthy and unhealthy shame, right? We need to get rid of the unhealthy shame, right? Shame and regret are pretty similar whenever they're healthy. Man, I am not happy that I did that.
Yep.
That thing that I did in my past, I am ashamed of. Now, I don't think it has any determining, it doesn't determine my value at all. You know, I am still valuable
Sure.
through Jesus,
Sure.
right? The last thing, that de-shaming factor, we need to talk about it. It needs to be talked about regularly. It needs to be talked about from the pulpit. It needs to be talked about around the dinner table in places where you are going to grow with trusted individuals. So I think if we can do those three things, we will see a huge growth and a huge uptick of people who are experiencing freedom from this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just hit on so much truth. I mean, you know, the enemy wants us to think you're the only one.
Right.
Nobody's as messed up as you are.
Right.
You know, if your family, if your wife, if your husband, if your friends find out, man, they're gonna turn their back on you. You know, all of this stuff. It's just not true. And I love you quoted James 5. You know, confess your sins to one another so that you may be healed.
That's right.
Right. It's like turning on the lights in a dark room. I mean, it when you expose sin to God and God's truth, it flees, right? I mean, so it's the beginning of it. But as you're talking, Talyn, I just think that I think a lot of people they need to find a community.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if it's through their church or where they can find community, but you know, I know that alcoholics have Alcoholics Anonymous. I know that there are people dealing with drugs. There's different types of support groups. I would pray and hope that there's, but again, we're in a pretty big church.
Yeah.
Now I know that there's inner healing groups and things like that. And maybe I do remember. I remember years ago there was a gentleman at our church that led a pornography kind of recovery group.
Yep.
But that's been a while.
Right.
So, I think you're touching on something that is probably very needed.
Yeah.
And then who knows what? I mean, maybe there can be some communities come out of this, but this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
People need help.
Yeah.
And thank you that you're bringing this because I didn't understand, and I certainly, I thought I was talking in theory about AI being involved in this. Oh no, AI is already here.
Yeah.
So, thank you for bringing this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things in closing. A lot of people they resort to pornography addiction through trauma. There is some type of traumatic event that happened, and they found some type of solace in pornography and masturbation. I just want to be the one to speak to you. That's not God's will for your life. Your abuse was not your fault, and that's unfair.
Okay.
But recovering from your trauma is your responsibility.
Come on.
And so I just want to speak encouragement over you.
Thank you.
And then the second thing is, if you are not a part of a community and you're running in some circles right now where you don't have a whole lot of like-minded believers, a phenomenal resource for you that's online is called The Freedom Fight. I'll put a link in the description of this video.
Cool.
It's free. However, there is a paid kind of subscription to it if you would like to go another layer deeper. But it's chock full of people who are going through the same thing as you, and they have a complete online community and forums and regular teachings that they do on there. It's a phenomenal resource. I highly recommend it because that was one of the catalysts to my freedom. So anyways, thank you, Merritt, so much for having, allowing me to share something that the Lord has put so heavily in my heart.
Man, what a blessing. Listen, Talyn suggested some resources, and thank you, Talyn, that look, abuse is out there, and I've heard said many times it's okay to be not okay. It's just not okay to stay not okay.
That's right.
And find a good local church. Trinity Fellowship is our local church. There's plenty of people I think out there that can and will try to help and websites. So listen, I think you guys probably need to share this with some people in your life that may be struggling with this, and keep tuning in. We're going to keep bringing the relevant topics that we think are trying to help help people just get through life and live on purpose and with purpose. Right,
That's
Talyn?
exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
All right, guys. See you next time. God bless you.
Bye, y'all.